Khoa Bui, and today I have a very special guest. His name is Kane. He wrote the book 1 Million Followers. He's also worked with people such as Taylor Swift and other celebrities around the world. What's really amazing about Brendan is that he has a very data-driven, analytical approach towards getting followers and getting traffic, and also converting that traffic into leads and whatever your goals are online. And so without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Brendan Kane. Thanks. Well, Brendan, I really appreciate your time today. It's a true honor to finally get you on an interview. I know how busy you are, and you know, I really love what you're doing out there. You're really inspiring a lot of people through your work, through your books, through your speaking engagements. And yeah, so welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
No worries. Cool. So for those who don't know who you are, we'll just start up with the basic introduction, which is your background. So I think you came from an entertainment type of industry, and that's how you sort of morphed into the whole, you know, the growth hacker type of person who knows how to influence people. So can you explain a bit about that one?
I initially wanted to be a film producer.
Hmm.
And so I went to film school. And as soon as I got into film school, I wanted to make sure that I'm learning business, because to
Hmm.
be a film producer, you need to understand business. And
Yes.
I just saw that there was very little in terms of offerings of teaching you the core principles of business. Sure, they would teach you about film producing and what that takes, but I
Hmm.
wanted a broader perspective on what it takes to actually create and run a business.
Yeah.
While I was in college, I decided to create a few internet companies just to learn and experiment, because I felt that was the best way and the most cost efficient way at the time, and still holds true today, is to create
Hmm.
internet companies.
Hmm.
So I did that when I was going through college, and then we moved out to Los Angeles to pursue a career in film back in 2005. It was when the entertainment industry started to reawaken to digital after the dot-com bust.
Yeah.
And I just saw that I needed to really stand out. And it's a lot of the work that I do is figuring out unique ways that you can provide value and stand out in a very
Hmm.
noisy and crowded market.
Yeah.
And I just thought in the entertainment industry, there was tens of thousands of other people that wanted to be producers. And not even that, there's hundreds of thousands of millions of people trying to get the attention of studio executives, producers, and directors, and
Hmm.
celebrities, and things of that nature.
Hmm.
So I saw an opportunity of leveraging the knowledge that I gained in creating those internet companies to get in the door, to
Hmm.
forge projects and connections, and quickly went from starting out as a just an assistant making coffee to creating a digital division for a movie studio in less than a year.
Hmm.
And so I worked in the entertainment industry for several years, managing digital divisions and overseeing the theatrical marketing
Yeah.
for films ranging from 15 to $100 million budgets.
Hmm.
And through that, it was kind of really my first foray and experience into corporate America. I
Hmm.
mean, most people think that the film industry is very exciting and
Hmm.
sexy and cool, but it's another corporation. It's a
Hmm.
business.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah, and it didn't work for me in that
Hmm.
I'm the type of person that I like to build, and I'm very much an experiential learner.
Hmm.
And in most corporate environments, the entertainment industry, as well, as you spend more time playing the political game and asking for permission to do something rather than actually doing it.
Hmm.
So that's where I had made a decision to really go after the digital technology and social space
Hmm.
after having that experience. And while I was working for one of the studios, I actually got the president of the studio to invest in an advertising technology, which, looking back on it, was the first ever influencer advertising technology. This is back in like 2007 on top of MySpace.
Hmm. Okay.
And I was able to structure a licensing deal with MTV for that. And I just saw that there was a larger opportunity there. And
Hmm.
that's where I kind of started to dive in deeper and made the choice to transition out of wanting to be a film producer into really exploring what this new world had to offer.
Mm, that's really interesting. And I noticed that the way you market, you have a lot of analytics and researching and testing behind your marketing and behind your testing and everything. So, like, would you always consider yourself a more of like an analytical, a data metric person? Is that the personality type that you have that you inject into your marketing?
Yeah, I'm very, and I study communication frameworks and personality types. I mean,
Mm.
my primary way that I view the world is through thoughts and logic. So
Yeah,
things
yeah,
need to make sense to me. And I'm not a math genius by any means. Like
yeah, yeah,
I use a calculator for everything, and I did horrible in math, but I do love data. But
yeah.
I like to streamline data in the way that I understand it. Is people oftentimes times think of analytics or data as something that's super complex and hard
Mm.
to understand, but it doesn't have to be because my mind doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
But the reason I like it is the reality of the world that we live in today is opinions really don't mean anything because you can go
Mm.
validate a decision one way or the other. And
Yeah.
I can't stand, especially dealing with clients, the bigger clients, brands and corporations, where they'll argue about, well, which direction should we take, which direction is right, whose creative vision is right. And it's like, go off and just test it. The data will
Mm.
tell you quickly, and we have amazing tools at our fingertips today.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think I heard one of your interviews that what you do is you have different variations of content when you're testing. So you test like the title, the image, and the caption, and so forth. So would you mind explaining a bit about the 5 variations of content that you use to test?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have different tests for different objectives and purposes. But what you're referring to is when we're leveraging advertising platforms,
Mm.
specifically a lot of the advertising that we do online is through the Facebook and Instagram advertising platform.
Mm.
And the reason I'm so bullish on that platform, it gives you so much control over everything.
It's
So
like laser targeting, isn't it?
it's laser targeting, but it's also the flexibility that you can
Mm.
take one piece of content and turn it into hundreds, if not thousands of variations. And that
Mm.
doesn't mean that, hey, you take a video and you cut it 1,000 different ways.
Mm.
That's where the 5 key elements of a variation come into play. So,
Mm.
for example, when I generated 1 million followers in 30 days, I tested 5,000 variations of content in those 30 days. Now, again, that sounds like crazy amount of content, but it's
Yeah.
not testing 5,000 individual pieces of content. It's
Mm.
5,000 variations. So I break down a variation into 5 key elements. The first element you have is the creative itself,
Mm.
whether it's the video, the image, the article, and we will create different variations of it if we can, if we have the ability to do it. Sometimes we work with clients where we don't have that flexibility, but if we have a video, sometimes we'll test 3 or 4 different versions of that video with like a 3-second intro or different meme cards or things like that.
Mm.
The second element of a variation is the headline.
Mm.
Facebook, it goes above the piece of content. Instagram, it goes below in terms of the caption. Then the third is, what are the demographic makeup of the people you're targeting? Are they males? Are they females? What age bracket are there?
Mm.
The fourth is the interest level and the psychographic profile of this person.
Yep.
What products do they buy? What music do they listen to? Where do they like to travel? All of
Mm.
these details you can control. And then the fifth is the geolocation. Where do they live? Are you
Mm.
targeting the entire world? You can go all the way down to a specific zip code. So with each of these 5 elements of variation, you can take this video and just swap out the headline or swap out the demographics or the interest level or where they live.
Mm.
And by swapping out all these variables, what it does is it does 2 things. One, it gives you more chances to learn, which is the
Mm.
most
True.
important thing,
Mm.
of how your content performs with specific audiences, with specific tweaks under specific scenarios.
Yep.
And it gives you more chances to win as
Mm. Mm.
well. Because
Mm.
if you just put out one piece of content out there structured in one way to one audience and it doesn't work, then you're sitting there being like, well, what do I do?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it my product
Mm.
is not good enough? Is it my landing page is not good enough? Is it the message? Is it the content? And that's
Mm.
why we like to test extensively because, and sometimes, listen, we'll take a piece of content, we'll test it 500 or 1,000 different ways, and it just won't work.
Yeah. Okay.
But through that, we will know definitively why it's not working
Yeah.
and how to, have a hypothesis of how to fix it
Mm.
versus doing it once. It doesn't really teach you that much.
Yep.
And just that rapid iteration allows you to learn very quickly
Mm.
what works and what doesn't work.
You'll have to be crazy patient with this. A lot of people, when they launch advertising campaigns, they're just, okay, let's get it out there. Let's try and get as many leads we can with whatever we have. But you're very patient with your testing. You have all your variations, and you just go through and test each iteration, isn't it? Right?
Yeah, and I'll say that I think anything in life you have to be patient with.
Yeah.
If you really want to be successful, very few people win the lottery
Mm-mm.
and strike it. I mean, the people that are the most successful just don't give up. They're
Mm.
relentless,
Yeah.
and they just keep trying new things, whether that's online or offline. I think it was Thomas Edison. They said he failed
That was,
10,000 times in
yes.
inventing the light bulb.
Mm.
And yeah, sometimes it's frustrating. Don't get me
Mm.
wrong. Sometimes
Mm.
we get down with it. Uh, but at the same time, it's kind of, if you look at it less as a failure and more of as a learning mechanism, and it just keeps pushing you to get better and better and better.
Yeah. Speaking of your personality types that you were talking about before, yeah, I'm a D personality type. You know, dominant, influential, and I'm very task driven, and very fast. But you're very logical and everything. So you take your time, but you also use all the metrics and data. So that's really amazing that you can incorporate that into your marketing campaign. So, okay. You also mentioned about, I really love the analogy that you had about the magazine analogy, how if you're walking down the street and how people remember you and stuff. So would you mind elaborating a bit more about your analogy there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
So it's actually my entire second book that's coming out
Mm.
in a few months
Cool.
is based upon this subject, and it's so the second book is called Hook Point: How to Stand Out in a 3-Second World.
Nice.
And the reality of the situation that we're in today is that with social media, there's over 60 billion messages sent on digital platforms each day.
Mm.
If you want to talk about advertising, the average person is exposed to between 4,000 and 10,000 ads a day.
Mm.
So you have to find a way to stand out. And most people, when they think about competition, they think about your direct competition of who's going after the same customer with the same type of product line or same type of service. But in the reality of the world we live in, you're not just competing against that. You're competing against Kim Kardashian. You're competing against Nike and all
Mm.
the things that pop up into your social feeds or all the things that people are exposed to in it each day.
Yep.
So that's where we have this concept of a hook point, and really it's designed to capture people's attention in that first 3 to 5 seconds. Because if you
Mm.
can't capture the attention in the first 3 to 5 seconds, you'll never get them to watch
Yeah.
the next 30, 60, 90, however long you want. And
Mm.
there's a lot of conversation and information out there about building brand, like Simon Sinek's why, your purpose, all of that, which is
Mm.
extremely valuable to have.
Mm.
But the reality of the situation is if you can't capture their attention in like 3 to 5 seconds, none of that stuff even matters because they
True.
won't even get to your product or service. They won't get to your purpose. They won't
Exactly.
get to your why.
Mm.
So one of the exercises that I had created a 5-step framework for this hook point process, but one of the exercises, as you mentioned, is that we do with clients that we work with and the agency that we have in developing hook points for people is imagine that the editor of a magazine calls you up and says, okay, we're giving you the cover of this magazine and you're the only person on it. Now,
Mm.
what is that headline that best represents your brand, your product or service?
Yeah.
But when thinking about that and brainstorming, you have to determine what is that headline that is going to get your customer or
True.
the customer that you're trying to attract away from all this competition as they
Mm.
walk down a busy street. Just imagine walking down a busy street of New York or whatever city you're in with all the noise and everything, and then they
Yeah.
pass a magazine stand. And there's 50 other magazines out there with their own hook points, drawing people in. What is that headline? What is that hook that's going to make them stop in that busy street, pick up that magazine, buy it, and read it?
Mm.
Because that's how difficult it is in the world that we live in. Now, most people, when they do that exercise, they'll just come up with one.
Mm.
but we force ourselves, we force the clients we work with to come up as many. And oftentimes the best ones come from pushing yourself out of your comfort zone.
Okay.
So if you feel like you've hit a saturation point at 10 or 15, you keep pushing
Wow.
until you come up with something. And then we test it and we validate it. We take the
Mm.
best ones, and that testing process I just walked you through is we'll go and test and see which one responds.
Mm.
And the process of developing hook points is simple, but it's not easy. I've got 15 years of doing
Yeah,
this
yeah.
process of not just online but offline, because being an entrepreneur, I had to go into the rooms with the biggest executives and celebrities and um, studio heads and convince them to buy our technology or partner with us.
Mm.
And what some of the most common mistakes that people make in that process is they are either they're very vague with their offering. They're saying something that's been said 10,000 times, especially
Mm.
in the world that we live in.
Yeah.
It's like, for example, meditation.
Mm.
Meditation's been talked about for so many years, and now it's becoming more popular. So you
Mm.
can't just go off and say the same things that everybody else has said is meditation will lead to success. Meditation will lead to happiness.
Yeah,
Meditation will lead to
true.
fulfillment. It'll just get lost. Like we were working on a social video where the headline is meditation is a scam. We're subverting
Oh, love it.
expectations.
That's got my
Not that
attention.
we believe not that we believe that. We don't
Yeah.
believe it, but it brings people into a story that we tell is, listen, most people fail at meditation or think meditation doesn't work because of all this misinformation into the marketplace.
Yeah.
Or people just are, one of the interesting things is I meet people all the time, billionaires or people that are very successful and super smart, and they have a very difficult time distilling down their message in the simplest form because they didn't need to do it for themselves.
Mm.
They're just so smart, it comes intuitive to them. And you need to find a way to really simplify it, because if somebody has to think too hard, they're going to keep swiping.
Mm.
If it's too simple and it's vague, or if it's something they've seen 1,000 times, they're just going to keep swiping. So
Mm.
there's
Mm.
a fine line balance in doing it, and that's why I spent the time in this next book to develop a framework, and why we've built an agency helping people develop this is because it takes years and years of practice.
Yeah.
It's one of the most critical things, no matter what you're trying to achieve in today's world.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I love it how you're not doing this to just get. I can clearly see it's not a vanity trying to. You're not trying to do this to cater for your own ego or vanity. It's just all experimentation. You love the whole process, and I think that a key message that you also said was that you got to be passionate. You got to love this stuff in order to become successful. Is that right?
Yeah, I firmly believe that,
Mm.
because things oftentimes take 2 or 3 times longer than you anticipate, maybe even longer than that. And
Mm.
it's one of the things that I've had to really get good at for myself is my creative brain works so fast that in the beginning
Mm.
I had so many ideas, and I wanted to chase the idea because I thought the idea was good or because I thought the idea would make money. And
Mm.
you burn out really quick from it if you really aren't fully passionate about it. So for myself, I have to separate the excitement for the idea versus the excitement of the underlying purpose of why I'm doing it.
So you just focus on just the purpose, right? You don't you put the money like later on. That's only you focus on just the purpose because that's what drives you forward because you're going to need it for decades
Well,
if
yeah,
required.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Mm.
again, it's like the reason that I'm, helping people develop their hook points now
Mm.
is because that creative process is very fulfilling for me.
Yeah.
I'm very good at it, and I
Mm.
can do it time over and over again. Is like there's always a new person that needs a hook, or even a pre-existing client. They're constantly reinventing their hooks
Mm.
because one hook may last for a year, but you may need to come up with other ones because competitors will steal it. You see this all the time
Mm.
with hook fatigue, we call it.
Okay.
So, for example, like Tom's shoes, the
Okay.
one for one. was an amazing hook. But
Mm.
then everybody else started adopting the one for one model and copying them.
Yeah.
And
And then it
then
gets
it just
lost.
was
Yeah.
obsolete and they needed to reinvent.
Mm.
Same thing with you look at Nike. They started off having the number one running shoe in the world, and then that
Mm.
became oversaturated, and they're constantly reinventing hooks. You look at Amazon. Amazon's one of the best companies in the world at constantly creating new hooks.
Yeah.
Whether it was, the world's largest bookstore when they launched, to one-click checkout, to Amazon Prime and 2-day free shipping, to
Mm.
the Echo, to the Kindle, to the Amazon Prime content,
Mm.
and original content they have, is they're constantly reinventing themselves.
Yep.
And it's also like the streaming wars that are happening right now. It's like,
Yeah.
how did Netflix overcome and beat Blockbuster? This is a case study I have in my keynote. Is at one point Blockbuster was valued at $8.4 billion. They
Mm.
had the opportunity to acquire Netflix for $50 million.
They
Now
didn't do it.
Blockbuster is bankrupt, and Netflix market cap is, I think, over $110 billion. Why?
Yeah.
Because they created effective hooks to bring people in. The
Mm.
first one was no late fees. Then they invented binge watching. And
Mm.
now the reason they spend $17 billion a year on content is each of their original content pieces is a hook into their service.
Mm, mm, mm. Yeah, Netflix is it's a really good success story because they came up with the subscription model, provide tremendous value, and only at a low price per month. And then now you have Apple who's moving into that space, and then you also have what is it, Amazon as well, who's trying to take over the competition from Netflix. So it's amazing how that's happening. There's that competitive war, the streaming war, as you just mentioned. So yeah. Okay, so how about in terms of, because I was reading a book by Tim Ferriss. He's got the 4 Hour Work Week, and he said that because it's his book is a national bestseller, but what he did was he tested his headline. So I think he advertised on Google pay per click, and he
Yeah.
had different series of different headlines to test it. So is that the same method that you apply to all your advertising campaigns, pay per clicks, or do you have software, or what's the deal, or it's all different variations?
Yeah, we kind of, we didn't invent A/B testing.
Mm, mm,
So
mm,
we just devised a method to scale A/B testing.
mm,
So what Tim Ferriss describes is a version of what we do. We just kind of do it on steroids. I mean,
yeah.
we just excel it. A lot of the testing that we do is mainly on Facebook and Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
because of the granularity that you can get into based upon the psychographic, the demographic, all of that information that you have.
So you
It's
have
a
a
little
testing
bit
budget,
more,
right?
yeah, it's a little
Yeah.
bit more granular than what Google AdWords has with that, and the ability to scale tests as well.
Mm,
It makes it a little bit easier, and depending on what our objective is,
mm,
this process that we develop can be used for anything. It can be used for follower growth. It can be used for traffic acquisition, for lead generation, for conversion-based marketing. So, or it can be used for virality. Depending on the client, what they're trying to achieve, then we will set the specific objective and craft the test specifically around that.
Okay, fantastic. And I also know that there's a lot of people who are attracted to what you're doing because of the people that you know. I mean, you were able to work with Taylor Swift and other celebrities. What's it like working with them, by the way, for those who are curious about that?
Each person's different. I mean,
Mm,
it's like any person you work in a business. Each person has a different personality and a different way of going about things. There's certain people that are very difficult. There's
mm,
some that are very cool and easy to work with.
mm,
Taylor Swift, for example, I worked with her and her team for about 2.5 years. I mean, my interactions with her were limited. I think we had like 3 or 4 meetings together, but she was very, very smart, very brilliant, uh, and very grounded. Because when I was working with her, she was just at that inflection point of starting
mm,
to take off. And I worked with, when I was in the movie industry, an actor, Jason Statham,
mm,
in the Crank movies, and now in that Hobbs and Shaw Fast and Furious movies. Another guy, very down to earth, very fun person, and very curious and very professional and
mm,
wanting to learn. And then there's other celebrities that I'm not going to name, but they're very difficult to deal with. They've been propped up on this pedestal, and because of that, they expect things for free, or they expect you to bend over backwards for them.
Mm,
And at this point in my career, after doing it, I oftentimes avoid people in the entertainment industry because of that. I'm
mm,
not going to work with anybody, but I'm very selective in that respect, because it's got to be a mutual partnership and appreciation in order to be successful.
that's true. Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. Okay. Another question is, let's say that you were to go inside a time machine, press a button and go back maybe 10, 15 years, talk to your younger self. What would you say?
Be patient.
Be
It's the
patient.
biggest thing.
Love it.
Yeah, I mean,
I need that
it's
advice
something that
as
I
well.
have to. Yeah, be patient is a big one, and just trust and let go is another huge one.
Trust and let go.
It, yeah, sometimes you just hold on and too hard and try and force things through, but
Yeah.
those are definitely two of the biggest lessons that I still work on today. I'm by no means perfect at it, but
Mm,
at least I have the awareness around it now.
yeah. Yeah. Love it. Okay. So, how can people get in contact with you as well and find out what you're doing?
Yeah, so they can visit my website, brendanjkane.com, and it's
Mm-hmm.
spelled BRENDAN, J as in Jack, Kane, KANE.com. They can direct message me on Instagram at Brendan Kane. And the current book, 1 Million Followers, is on all major stores on Amazon, or we have an offer, a free book offer, if you go to book.1millionfollowers.com.
Mm-hmm. Book.1millionfollowers.com. Yeah.
Yeah, and one is spelled out.
Oh, one is spelled out. Okay, no worries. Millionfollowers.com, and they can get access to the book. Fantastic. Awesome. No worries. Well, Brendan, I really appreciate your time today, and keep inspiring the world. And we love your content. We love what you're doing out there, and we look forward to seeing what you have in store for the future, and wish you all the best for future endeavors.
Yeah, appreciate you having me.
No worries.